It's an orange juice.
What's up everyone, this is Oj. The skeleton barrel spawns 8 skeletons. The barrel itself has 636 health. This is the same as one barbarian. When it touches your tower, it pops and spawns 8 skeletons. These skeletons will deal exactly 1,407 damage to a tower when ignored. The skeleton barrel will always deal this amount of damage to all towers. As soon as the barrel pops or connects to a tower, it'll spawn in a circle formation. Countering the skeleton barrel requires a slightly different timing compared to zapping a lava hound or goblin barrel. Let's check that again. Look how as soon as the barrel drops, there's a slight timer before the skeletons are deployed. Whereas if you look at a goblin barrel, the frame after that barrel pops, goblins will spawn immediately. If you look at a lava hound as it dies, the next frame spawns 6 pups all clumped up into a single cluster. So if you look at the skeleton barrel, there's a very slight movement where neither the barrel nor the skeleton exist because of this 0.5 second deploy timer. So unlike a goblin barrel, you can't zap the skeleton barrel as soon as it pops. The deploy timer will mess you up and you'll take 1400 damage on your tower. You've got to change your muscle memory to count for that 0.5 seconds, so hold off on the zap slightly longer than you would a goblin barrel and you'll be just dandy. Tornado can counter the skeleton barrel too, but because of their 0.5 second spawn timer, casting the tornado before the balloon pops will result in the skeletons surviving and they will wreck your tower. If you time it correctly, you can avoid most of that damage, but 2 skeletons will still hit the tower, knocking off 137 damage. So is tornado worth using? Maybe if you're desperate and you don't have the proper counters, but is it worth activating the king tower? It's going to deal 500 damage if you're brave. The Valkyrie is a pretty decent counter to the skeleton barrel, but if you plant her a bit too late, she won't be able to kill all of the skeletons, and the ones that spawn in the outer edge will clip your princess tower. You'll want to deploy the Valkyrie half a second earlier so that her spin destroys all of the skeletons right as they spawn in that clumped up cluster. Unlike the lava hound, the deploy timer protects the skeleton barrel a bit better from the executioner's axe and a lot better from fire spirits. The last hit on the fire spirit will not splash onto the skeleton. If you save the fire spirits for just the skeletons, you can avoid 1 hit from the skeletons. Stabby stabs do a pretty decent job at preventing most of the damage dealt to the skeletons. They'll only let the tower get 2 hits on your princess tower. If you want to gain an elixir lead and you can afford 200 damage on your tower, skeletons are decent at stopping that barrel. They'll get about 4 shots on your tower. But Skarmy does an excellent job at shutting down the skeleton barrel for a neutral elixir trade, and now you have a full army of skeletons to counter push. Goblin Gang can counter the skeleton barrel too, but if you place them a bit too early, that deploy timer is going to mess you up and they'll land a couple of hits on your tower. You're going to need to plant them slightly later. It'll completely stop the skeleton barrel. This is a bit more precise timing, but it's still doable. Offensively, the skeleton barrel pairs well with units behind it like a hog. It's kind of like an ice golem. You want the barrel to tank for you. It won't kite ground units, so it's not exactly an ice golem replacement. Just like an ice golem, it pairs very well with the graveyard. It can tank 7 hits from a princess tower, and once it connects, it'll spawn a cluster of them skeletons. With its 0.5 second deploy time, it makes it very awkward because your opponent now has to wait longer before using log or zap. Since the skeleton barrel itself kind of behaves like a tank, throwing a goblin barrel can be quite effective, especially if they don't have the log in rotation. This is not going to stop an inferno tower though. Once it kills the skeleton barrel, it'll switch onto the golem since the skeletons deploy 0.5 seconds after. Using an ice golem to stop the skeleton barrel is as effective as using the golem to stop a graveyard. It's okay. The primary difference is that the graveyard costs 5, so you can afford to commit more against the graveyard. Using a knight is like using an ice golem. The way it spawns with that circle formation, those skeletons are going to connect to your tower on the edge. A tank won't completely shut down a skeleton barrel once it connects on your tower. Unlike a knight or ice golem, the barbarians can actually take out all of the skeletons. There are just enough of them to cover the corners. Minions and bats are decent at countering the skeletons that pop from the barrel, but since 8 skeletons spawn in a circle instantaneously, it'll pop on your tower and it'll get a few hits off. What you'll need to do to shut down this barrel is to deploy the bats earlier to take out the barrel itself, so those 8 skeletons never get a chance to pop on top of your tower. Same thing with archers, you'll want to deploy them right as the barrel starts floating across the bridge. This buys the archers and your princess time to snipe them skellies. Since the skeletons spawn in a circle, ground splash units like a bomber are not very effective at stopping the barrel. Using a musketeer to snipe the barrel from the other lane won't be effective. She'll waddle off because those skeletons that spawned on the right side are none of her business. You'll need to plant her inside the lane to keep her interested enough in the skeletons. Not exactly the greatest counter, she ends up taking damage too. An Ice Wizard works much better than a Musketeer ever could, since he one-shots the skeletons and he's a little bit cheaper. They won't have any chance to deal any damage to him or the tower. Princess won't be very good at stopping the barrel. She just attacks way too slow. You can use the Executioner to take out the barrel, followed by the skeletons that spawn, but planting him in this position means he'll be taking more damage than he actually needs to. Utilizing the perfect angle to place him around this area takes out the barrel, and he'll splash onto all the skeletons that pop on the ground in one nice swoop. With the Mega Minion, it can actually stop the barrel since it blocks its pathing and it can take it down fast, giving your tower ample time to snipe those skellies. A baby dragon can stop the skeleton barrel just as well as a Mega Minion. His attack speed is kinda slow, but he will finish the job. A witch can completely stop the skeleton barrel. I found one of the better positions to be closer to the back of the tower, just because it's better to let the barrel connect and give her time to spawn skeletons. Same thing with the Night Witch. If you plant her a bit too forward, she won't have enough time to spawn enough bats to take out all of those skeletons. Planting her a bit behind gives her enough time that she'll be able to completely stop those skeletons from the barrel. As for an Electro Wizard, this one is a no-brainer. Don't even bother using him to take out the skeleton barrel. Just wait until the skeletons are deployed and zap him. The skeleton barrel has the same pathing as a regular balloon does, so you can pull it with anything like a cannon, with an added bonus that the cannon actually helps take out those skeletons. Just like the balloon, when it's deployed right at the edge of the map, it will not get pulled by buildings placed 4 tiles from the river and 2 tiles from your princess tower. You'll need to plant a building 4 tiles from the river and 1 tile from the princess tower to pull that skeleton barrel. It is just barely enough to stop the skeletons. Because of its spawn mechanic, it's super fun to capitalize on its mechanics to clone a skeleton barrel. It's sort of like cloning a lava hound. Your opponent needs to pop the balloon before zapping those skeletons. It's pretty interesting how the barrel is changed, since it now spawns in a circle formation. If you look at leaked footage from when it was accidentally in the mirror mode challenge, the skeletons spawned in random clusters, so we'll never be sure if leaked footage will be real mechanics or even real stats until after that card is officially released in the game. Thanks for watching, stay tuned for more Raspy OJ.